Thank you. Just like the post. Yeah, thank you. We have people living here already. Okay. Moved in already.
All of them are full?
No, I have two-thirds. So I have, Shea Hope lives here.
No.
She and his girlfriend live on the corner.
Shea.
Vice captain. He's just like yeah. Good, really nice young man. Lovely. Okay, you sit there. You sit. Thank you all for coming to Harmony Hall Green, the official opening. This project was started in 2018, and the Prime Minister broke the ground officially for us. And we had hoped to finish it a year and a half earlier, but pandemic, ashfall, hurricane, supply chain intervened. But here we are, and we're very pleased with the way it's turned out. And I wanted to have this short ceremony to thank the persons here. Most of the persons gathered here were instrumental in bringing this project to fruition. And I thank all of you, from our architects, our engineers, my landscaper, all the persons that supplied us with all the materials, and the persons that helped us sell it. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You've worked with me many times, and I hope we work together more in the future. We designed this project, first of all, to be hurricane resilient. We designed it, we said to the engineers and the architects, it must withstand a Category 5 hurricane in its structure. So we built it with extra reinforcement in its columns, and we used a lot of extra steel in it. But to soften that look, we decided we would make it look like a normal development from the outside. When you're passing in the road, you say, it's a new development. But the magic happens when you get into the gardens in here. These are the communal gardens for the residents only. So we built it so that there's a lot of greenery, and we planted this greenery a couple of years ago, so by the time we handed over, it was matured. And each patio looks onto the large reflecting pool to give you that different feel of greenery and nature. As soon as you come in your front doors, you should see water and greenery. Sort of a Zen garden of tranquility out here. So it is made of lots of concrete, lots of steel, but it is softened by all of the greenery around it. And that's the whole idea of what we're doing. And I just want to say that a part of our green credentials is that this water in the reflecting pool is quite voluminous. This is all recycled rainwater. We capture the rainwater from the roof. We have our own on-site pumps and filters, and this continuously circulates and stays pure to keep it clean, stop the buildup of algae and mosquitoes. But, I am particularly grateful and pleased that our Prime Minister has come today to do the official opening. As I said, when she was first elected Prime Minister back in May 26, was it? 2018. About 2 or 3 weeks later, she came and opened it up for us. And in fact, the tree that you see planted on the outside is what we affectionately refer to as the Mia tree, and it's blooming, it's blossoming. We've taken good care of it. But we thought it was appropriate, and we invited the Prime Minister to come and say a few words to officially open the development. So, Prime Minister, over to you. Thank you for coming too.
Mike, Tony. Thank you very much, Tony, and good morning to everyone. You know, coming here this morning for me was an essential part of the journey. And it was an essential part of the journey because, as Tony correctly pointed out, this was one of the first developments that I became associated with in a groundbreaking once we assumed the office of government. And for me, the journey isn't just simply about being here at the beginning of this project and being here at the end of it and seeing persons living in here, but it is also the journey of this administration. The length of time that this project has taken, as you have heard, has been affected by the fact that we came through a pandemic. And in spite of the pandemic, you are here to witness glory and to witness beauty. This project also represents, in its design and its construction, the fact that we live in a climate crisis world and that we are on the front line of that crisis. And therefore, we have been encouraging persons in their designs, not just in the private sector, but in the public sector, to take that into account so that we can become more resilient, recognizing that the world in which we live is going to be significantly different. The fact that the United Kingdom now has to go and re-engineer most of its housing because of the heat wave tells the story of the world in which we are living. And that those houses, as you know, were built really to provide heating, and even then not well, because the radiators just don't function that well in the United Kingdom for anybody who had the fortune or misfortune of having to go through a winter in the UK. So that design is critical, not just to the statement it makes in terms of resilience, but design across all of our housing is critical to the kind of society that we want and the kind of society that we're prepared to encourage. If you build a house that is hot and that people don't want to stay in when the day comes, then you're going to encourage the development of blocks. I've never seen a block in the sunlight yet. Any block that you go on, there's a tree or there's some kind of shelter. And it tells, therefore, the story that we would do well to look at what those who did not have the advances of the technology that we have did in designing their houses. Go into any Bajan chattel house or any Bajan bungalow, and there's certain principles that came out immediately. Wind must come in on the east and come out on the west. My father used to tell me it was called the cowshed principle. Whether that is so or his principle, the point is it is a principle that endured. Wind must come in on the east and go out on the west. Secondly, the reason why our chattel houses have the fixed louvers at the top in the gable was to be able to allow air to circulate so that people don't remain hot in their own houses. Thirdly, the reason why they had hoods and sash windows is to be able to allow the sash window to drop down when the rain is falling, but the air to still circulate through the above part of the sash window and water not coming in through the hoods. If there is not wisdom in those designs for the climate in which we live, I don't know who I am and I don't know what that is. And I simply say to those of us who are involved in the design and in the construction of housing and offices too, that we would do well to remember simple principles, recognizing that what we build must endure and what we build must endure not just for our purposes, to be able to pay back a mortgage, but it must endure against the environment within which we are living and functioning. And these principles don't matter whether it is large amounts of money you're spending or small amounts of money you're spending. Doesn't matter whether it is a chattel house you're building or whether it is a huge complex like this. The second point that I want to make is that this represents our journey with respect to where we are going. Barbados' development is going to be more nuanced with respect to tourism. In the middle of the pandemic, we introduced the welcome stamp. In fact, just across the road in St. Lawrence Gap was the first time I announced it in August of 2020, July of 2020, sorry. When Primo opened, I think it was. But the point is that our development with the advent of technology, fueling Airbnb, and other types of marketing tools on the internet, allows for us now to be able to go after long-stay visitors in a far more aggressive manner than we have ever done. We already benefit from having one of the highest, if not the highest, repeat factor within the tourism market in the Caribbean. The digital welcome stamp placed us out there by allowing persons to recognize that they could come here and stay and spend out the time during the pandemic. What other better place than a country that has this wonderful climate and environment within which to function? But prior to that, we were already getting there. Prime Minister Arthur introduced the concept that those persons who built apartments or villas that put them in the rental pool for 9 months or more could benefit under the Tourism Development Act from the tax incentives that were there. That was a recognition that more and more the mix in Barbados' tourism would not simply be hotels. Now, that is not an excuse for us not to develop more hotel rooms. We must develop more hotel rooms because, quite frankly, our hotel room stock has remained flat for the last 30 or so years. And we are aggressively pursuing that now. But in addition to the hotel rooms, must be apartment complexes such as this, particularly on this south coast, which has been the beneficiary of a large number of persons coming back on repeat visits. And people who want to come for 3-4 months of the year, then they go back to where they are. They may even come back for another few weeks at another point later in the year. This type of development facilitates that, while still allowing for the Airbnb and other approaches during the times of the year when the owners are not here. So I want to continue to encourage us, because if we are going to go past the impact of COVID and the impact of the climate crisis of 2020 and 2021, then it must be driven by private sector growth. And private sector growth requires private sector investment such as this and others, and this government will work with all players to be able to put that on the ground and to give Barbadians the benefit of a mix of economic activity that literally can help us improve our quality of life. If governments don't set the environment, the private sector will not participate. And that is why getting the investments, getting the downgrades behind us, and getting the upgrades ahead of us matters so much. That is why the confidence in Barbados' economy at the macroeconomic level also matters, because nobody's going to put money in a place where they believe that the money is literally going to run to water. The last point I'd like to make is that this represents our journey, finally, in the ultimate and perhaps most unfortunate of ways. When I came here in June 2018, sewage was still on the ground. Sewage from the South Coast is not on the ground anymore. And far from that, not only have we completed the temporary fix, which we did, but we are in discussions now to have the permanent plant rebuilt to carry us to tertiary level rather than the simple straining that took place at the secondary level treatment. And we hope that this entire district, for want of a better phrase, moving from here right back down to Rendezvous. We will expect to see further development here and all through St. Lawrence Gap again. And I believe that within the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see a completely new look for this Rendezvous, Graham Hall, St. Lawrence area, because it is the intention of government to refresh this area. Barbados has a mature tourism product, and half of our problem is that which carried us for the first few decades after independence cannot now carry us in the 21st century, second century that we're living in. We need to refresh our tourism product. It is why the government insisted on stabilizing it through the BEST program, but we will continue to work with the sector to see how best we can refresh that product, improve the physical look, expand the numbers of rooms that we have, but at the same time, ensure that we are doing it in a green way, as has been done here with the rainwater circulation and the attention to hurricane resilience, but also that we also use digitization wherever possible to ensure that there is a clear and efficient map for persons who are booking or who are functioning or who are dealing with maintenance schedules or any other aspect of how this building is to function once it becomes operational. So my friends, we will work with the people and the investors of Barbados and those who come into this country to refresh our tourism product and to ensure that we give that mix that allows for both short stay and long stay tourists in a way that hopefully will inure to the benefit of all of us in Barbados. So I want to congratulate you, Tony, and all the persons who participated in this project. I see a range of professionals here, and say simply to them that I thank them for their efforts and their work, but we need now to replicate this on multiple stages if we are going to carry Barbados' tourism product and our economic development to the next stage. Thank you very much.
Prime Minister, I'm going to take the Prime Minister to see one of the show units now. And, but before we do that, I would ask Greg Hazard, our Chief Engineer, to make a small presentation. Gratitude for all your assistance and your support through the years.
Thank you.
I don't know if you drink this stuff anymore, but...
Even if I don't, I have a liberal heart to give away. Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Everybody seems to stay on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, hold on.
Drunk tourist that. It's not going to happen. It's right.
Very